Hey guys, it's Danconia, welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup. And we are nearing the end of the year, there's only 2 days left to go, and finally it's time to give out some awards. So, in this video, I am going to name my Overwatch League Team of the Year for 2019. It's not too difficult for a lot of areas, because we've had 2 teams that have been absolutely stellar this year in the Overwatch League. But there is a bit of variety here. I've made sure there is a bit of variety. So, I'm going to name 9 players. 3 for each role. 2 main starters and then a substitute for each role. Because I think it's only fair to have a substitute for each role because basically you don't know what's going to happen during the season. Injuries, illness and stuff like that. So you're going to need a replacement for certain areas. Obviously, in the tank role it's a bit of an awkward one because you have an off tank and a main tank. But we will cover that when we get to it. But first of all, we are going to start off with the supports. And the supports are dominated by what you would call the 2 best teams in the league this year. So that is obviously the Vancouver Titans and the San Francisco Shock. Now, the first support we're going to look at is Twilight. Twilight, obviously the Ana Zen sort of main for the Vancouver Titans this year. A big staple part of that Vancouver Titans support line that did so well during this year's Overwatch League. And, arguably, baffling why Twilight missed out on the Overwatch World Cup squad for South Korea this year. It's perhaps one of the reasons why South Korea didn't do as well as expected. Whether that was Twilight's choice not to go to the Overwatch World Cup or not, we'll never know. But, as a debut in the league this year, I think it's gone pretty well for Twilight. I think we can all agree. And I don't think he'd be far away from a lot of people's teams of the year this year. Who am I going to put alongside Twilight, though? Well, honestly, I think the best support in the league this year has been Moth. Moth, obviously, representing the US and the San Francisco Shock this year. And this guy is insane. Honestly, insane. He's got such a varied hero pool. He can whip out the Lucio, the Ana, the Mercy. And we all know about his Batiste that we saw for San Francisco Shock. Honestly, the pioneer of Batiste usage in the Overwatch League because it was only the Shock that were running it and they were getting a lot of results from it as well. So, it's great to see someone pioneering something a tiny bit different, and I can only see Moth being an absolute staple part of the San Francisco Shock's backline and the entire team, to be quite honest, going into the 2020 season and beyond. He is one of the most important players for the San Francisco Shock. You can talk about Sinatra, you can talk about Choi Hyobin and the rest, but Moth really was the backbone of this team during their Overwatch League winning year. And obviously, he is now an Overwatch World Cup winner. And this is the first time that the Overwatch World Cup is in non-South Korean hands. So, Moth has been doing something right all year. I don't think anyone can argue about that. And he would be my starter alongside Twilight. The sub I have got is Violet. Now, honestly, you can interchange Violet and Twilight. I just wanted to put Twilight and Moth in together because of a bit of diversity. Honestly, you wouldn't be that far wrong just naming the entire San Francisco Shock roster as your team of the year. So, you know, it's kind of personal preference. But Violet, obviously, another fantastic support player. He's got the Zen, he's got the Ana, he's got the Moira. He's been popping off for the San Francisco Shock all season alongside Moth. Again, another one that missed out on the South Korean Overwatch World Cup squad this year. Whether that was his choice or not, again, we don't know, but could be part of the reason. I'm sure, I think a lot of people, especially in South Korea, would have wanted to see the likes of these players in the Overwatch World Cup squad for South Korea, but it didn't happen, so there's nothing we can do about it now. But another fantastic player. He's only a 19 member, so again, another player that's going to be probably around for quite a while for the San Francisco Shock. They've got such a stable support line. And this is why, you know, a lot of people are tipping San Francisco Shock to dominate for seasons to come, because damn, that they've invested in really good players that could be with them for ages. So those are my supports. Twilight, Moth, Violet, top of the stats, top of the league. Undoubtedly, I think, some of the best supports around in the game right now. Moving on to the tank line, though. So, this is where it gets a bit more varied and a bit more interesting, shall we say. Let's go with the name that I insta-locked into one of the tank roles for this team of the year. and that would be the San Francisco Shock off-tank Choi Hyobin. I don't think anyone really can be justified to leave Choi Hyobin out of a team of the year. Choi Hyobin is your playoffs MVP. He is honestly the best off-tank around right now. He's got a really good Diva, he's got a really good Roadhog, and he was the best Sigma around when Sigma was meta. If Sigma is still meta, maybe he will still be the best Sigma, because darn, this guy is good. And he also stood out for what we can say for the first time, an underwhelming South Korean World Cup squad at the World Cup this year. He still stood out as one of their best players, if not their best player. He was still popping off, even though he wasn't part of the San Francisco Shock. And honestly, he well deserved his MVP award for the Grand Finals, because damn, he was the best player in the Grand Finals in my opinion. Choi Hyobin, you know, was a stable part of the San Francisco Shock winning, Overwatch League winning team, and there is not much more to say. He topped stats for most of the off-tank roles, and he is the best off-tank around, so he is my off-tank that will be starting in my team of the year. To go in the main tank role, I picked a bit of a left pick. The main tank, honestly, in this team is perhaps the weakest part of this team. And the reason I say that is because I don't have a main tank that absolutely, completely stands out to me. When I name people like Super, I don't think Super's Orisa is good enough. When I look at Bumper, I think Bumper is great. I like Bumper as a guy. I like Bumper's crazy mentality when it comes to playing Rhine. And his Orisa, again, is not that strong. We saw Bumper dropped for TZ for the Vancouver Titans, and we saw Super dropped as well for the San Francisco Shock when Orisa became meta. Then we move on to things like players like Gesture. Gesture was very close to getting into this, but again, I can't give it to Gesture because London weren't brilliant this season. And at the start of the season, Gesture's Rhine did not look good. It got better, but I cannot put him in a team of the year. There is a main tank I can put in the team of the year though. It's Mano. The only person who is going to feature for the New York Excelsior. So, Mano has always been a really stable pick. He would have been the best tank in the league last year, perhaps rivaled by Gesture at that point because the meta was different. And again, Mano is just a really stable pick. He's never doing anything ridiculously outlandish. He's not doing Bumper-esque flanking Rhine shatters, but he's stable. He's got a good Winston, he's got a good Reinhardt, he's got a good Orisa. You haven't got to worry when you've got Mano in the main tank role. So Mano would be my main tank in the team of the year. It could change next year if some of the other tanks, but I think just a lot of the tanks starring for the biggest teams in the league right now have their downsides, as I've outlined with Gesture, Super, Bumper. Well, Bumper was at the Vancouver Titans. Now they've got Fisher, and I can't name Fisher. Maybe next year, Fisher. You're going to have to step up, though. But my substitute tank. Now, this is an interesting one. I have gone for Fury. Now, you may be thinking, well, he was on the London Spitfire. They didn't do that well in the playoffs, and, well, they finished, what, 7th, 8th? Why are you picking the London Spitfire? Well, or Fury, I should say. Well, because Fury is stable. Fury has always been stable. And, honestly, I think he was London's second best or best player last season. You can argue for profit. Now, Fury has got a fantastic Diva. The only problem with that is Diva isn't meta, but Fury can keep up with the Zarya and the Roadhog. And this is why I think he is one of the best off-tanks in the league still, even though the poor display from the London Spitfire in this season. He doesn't compete with the likes of Choi Hyobin right now. I can't say he does. But is he better than the likes of Meko or, say, Janu? I think he can compete with them. I really do think he can compete with them. And it put him in a team that was playing better than what London was. And I think you see Fury popping off left, right and centre. So I think Fury is a really stable tank player. But the great thing about Fury, and we saw this for London in the playoffs, he's got Orisa in his back pocket that he can pull out if needed. Because remember, when London played in the playoffs, they played Fury on the Orisa, and they played Gesture on the Sigma. First team to do that sort of thing. So it was a very interesting look, but it shows that Fury has a very diverse hero pool. So that's why I've named him as my substitute tank for my team of the year. Because he's got a really, really good hero pool, and he's also a really stable pick, much like Mano. It's just Mano was in a better team this year. So, now we're going to get to the nitty-gritty of it. We're going to get to the DPS. Now, there's only one player that could have insta-locked a DPS slot in Team of the Year. It's the MVP of the regular season. Let's be honest, it's Sinatra. I don't think anyone can really leave Sinatra out of Team of the Year, can we? It would be cruel, it would be stupid, it would be dumb. He is MVP of the regular Overwatch League season. He is MVP of this year's World Cup. This year he has won the Overwatch World Cup. This year he has won the Overwatch League. What else can you ask for? What else can you ask for? Sinatra obviously been playing a lot of Zarya, been playing a lot of Doomfist. He's got a lot of great hero picks in his back pocket. Sinatra will be a player to watch going into the 2020 Overwatch League season. Obviously, he is arguably the best player in the world right now. When you look at his stats, when you look at his awards, when you look on paper, he is arguably the best player in the world right now. You can't leave him out Team of the Year. The question is, who do I put alongside Sinatra? Now, what I've done is I've tried to vary it. I wanted someone who was pretty good at hit scan. I always like to see a team that's got decent projectile players, decent hit scan players in their DPS slots. So, yes, we're staying with the San Francisco Shurk. It's Architect. It's difficult this year for hit scan players because basically we haven't seen hit scan players, have we? We were in Goats at the start of the year, and then towards the end of the year, Double Shield, Orisa Hog, and hit scan just wasn't having an effect like Hanzo, like Mei, like Reaper. So it's difficult to pick out a really good hit scan player. Last year, it would have been people like Birdring and Carpe, but we haven't seen them being good enough. Architect, however, we have seen popping off for the San Francisco Shock this year. And he's also another one with a very good, varied hero pool. He's got the Hanzo, he's got the Widow, he's got the McCree, he's got, well, pretty much anything you want. That's what's great about the San Francisco Shock, because when you look at their DPS, they've got such a massive hero pool that they can play pretty much anything you need them to play. So, Architect will be my hit scan player, and my starting two would be Sinatra and Architect. But, to round off this one, who is my substitute DPS player? Now, this was a really difficult one. I am not going to lie. I almost put Prophet in here. Simply because Prophet, at times, single-handedly carried London Spitfire to the playoffs. If they did not have Prophet, they would not have made the playoffs. I fully believe that. But the DPS player I have put in here is Erster of the Atlanta Reign. Now, it's an off-wing pick, because Erster didn't really come to the forefront until the latter half of the Overwatch League season. But I think we were all very impressed with Erster's play. And it's another player that was on the fringes of the South Korean World Cup squad, but never quite made it, ahead of people like Carpe. So, there's arguments to be made for people like Stitch and Haxel, Ding of the Shanghai Dragons. There are so many DPS players that could have gone into these slots, but I picked Erster because he made such a massive difference to the Atlanta Reign, especially during the end of last season when Atlanta Reign went on this crazy run that got him into the automatic playoffs just ahead of the London Spitfire. And Erster demonstrated such great skill on these heroes that he was playing when it was Mei and things like that. He honestly made all the difference to the Atlanta Reign. Season-defining difference for the Atlanta Reign. I'm not even kidding. Without Erster, I don't think they would have got where they were. And remember, the Atlanta Reign were the only team to beat the San Francisco Shock in the overall season playoffs. Erster is the last spot. So, that is going to be it for this one. Obviously, you are inclined to your own opinions. Put them in the comments below, your team of the year. I think there are multiple combinations, especially in the DPS slots, of people you could have included in here. But it's ultimately down to people's own opinions. So, if you've got your own opinions, put it in the comments below, and we can all have a great discussion about it. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then!